Well, tonight we're having wild salmon fillet. It's a very nice fish to eat. It's easy to cook. It's easy to scale. And I'll show you how we do it. Now this is a frozen fillet. We cut the tail off of it. And in fact, if you just buy the little fillets and not the whole thing, this is probably the best tasting piece of the fish. So don't get upset if you saw a bag of just the tail part. That's the ones we would buy. Now the reason I cut this off is this is a lot thinner than that. So it's going to cook faster. If it was part of the fish, I'd have to take a hot pan out of the oven and get this section off of it and put that back in it. So I just cut this off. That way I can remove this. You could also put tinfoil over this section, but it's better to take it out because it would be cooked at a lesser time. Now a fresh salmon is usually scaled. A frozen salmon can and cannot be scaled. This was not scaled. And these are the scales that I took off of it. And you can just use a dinner knife if you don't have a fish scaler, and either side of the blade will work. This has a little serrated edge and works pretty well. And I did this while it was frozen, which was probably a little bit better to do because the meat is firmer when it's frozen. I have this laying on a couple paper towels because it is thawing out. You would normally put one of these in the refrigerator the night before you're going to serve it. The day before, like if I bought it today and wanted to eat it tomorrow night, I would have just put it in the refrigerator and it would have been thawed by tomorrow. I've had it open and it will be thawed by the time I cook it tonight, and it's not going to go bad because as it thaws it is pretty cold. A lot of people argue about how long to cook these things. We found that 300 degrees on the middle shelf for 20 minutes is the perfect time. You don't want to undercook fish. I think you want the inside of the thickest part to be about 135, 145 degrees, depending on how you like it. All I will put on this is I will coat it with a brush with olive oil, and I will put salt and pepper on it. And at about 16 minutes I will check it. At 18 minutes I will check it. This will probably come out at about 15 minutes because it's smaller. That will take probably 20 minutes. And the protein in the fish will bubble up and make little white bubbles all over it. I don't consider it unsightly. To me, that's telling me that this fish is done. People eat raw salmon. This is packaged in a plant. I'm sure they have really sanitary conditions, but doing millions of pounds of this a year, you want to have it at least 135 degrees. And when those little white protein bubbles appear, it's time to come out of the oven. Before I cook this, this is a pizza pan with tinfoil on it, and I do not coat the tinfoil. Now the reason I scaled it is a scaled fish, the skin will stick to this tinfoil. If I sprayed this with the vegetable spray cooking oil, the aluminum foil, then the skin wouldn't stick to it. And what I want to do is when I finish baking it, I could just take this and slide it under the meat, and I will cut it in the sections we want. Slide it under the meat and lift it right off the skin. And so if there were any scales left on the skin, it would stay on the pan. All I want to eat is the meat. And back to the paper towels. Moisture will come out of this fish and get in this pan. That's why it's lined with this foil. I don't need any additional moisture. So I'm just letting, as this thaws, this paper towel you can see is absorbing it. I will wipe the pan dry. After you scale this fish, there's a bit of slime that shows up when you scale it, and it will get on both sides, so you rinse it off. You would at least rinse the side with the skin on it. Since these were frozen, I rinsed them both off, and they've been sitting here thawing. With the salmon tonight, we're going to have parsley potatoes, just butter, parsley, and cooked potatoes. We cook more than we would have for a meal because they make great home fries for breakfast if you keep them in a lid. And we're going to have green beans out of our garden, and these were put up August the 7th last year. And we've got one pack here and 2 packs this size at the river in the freezer, and a pack that's 3 times this big. And the easiest way to get them out of these stored airtight bags is to run water over them, and that will help to start the thawing out process. And then they'll dump in this pan. You don't need a lot of water, just a little salt and pepper. Potatoes only need a little salt. The fish is only going to need some olive oil and salt and pepper. And frozen beans are fresh, 7 minutes and they're done. Well, my bride just called. I turned the oven on to get it hot, because you need to cook fish, especially in an oven that's already preheated. You don't ever want to let it have to wait to heat up. And the nice thing, that's going to take about 15 minutes count, bringing it to a boil, and 7 minutes to cook. And that's on, because that's going to be parsley potatoes. And with this, we just put some olive on it, took a brush, we just poured a little olive oil, rubbed this thing on it, and we didn't cut the meat there. It does look like that, but this was frozen, and when I took it off the paper towels, it naturally just split on those fisher lines. No problem. Then it's just salt and pepper. And the light just went off, so it's going in the oven. And it just went in the oven, and I'm going to pop it on 20 minutes. We check it at about 16 and 15 and look for the white protein droplets to form on the top of the meat. In about 15 minutes, we'll check on the small tail piece. And this is 15 minutes. See, this white protein is congealed up on top. That's done. And see, this is in the thinner part, it's done. Some is leaked out of the side, but you need a few more little white spots through that. I'm going to pull this piece off and put that back in for another 5. Well, I just took this salmon out of the oven, and you can see that it's at 135, and if you get over 145, you're really overcooking it. And then you can take a fork and flake it off. And if the protein that congeals on the fish is not to your liking, you can just scrape it off. Just like that. Any sharp edge will do. To make parsley potatoes, just if you had 5 potatoes and you'd take 1 pat of butter for every potato, that's how much you put in them when you do it like this. If you have 6, or you use 2 pats for potato, put 2 for this. And then I usually put the lid on it to get it started melting. And I'm going to get my bride, who just got home, and I have about 3 more minutes to put her food on the table, or I'll be in trouble, to hold the camera while I show my little trick on how to mix this up. The ones that have seen another video on this will know what I'm talking about. Well, it's parsley to taste. We like parsley. And if you haven't seen me do it this way, or somebody else do it this way, if you stir this up, you just stir the potatoes all to pieces. And what I try to do is just get it on a flat surface and around in a circle and up and down. And see, it's all mixed, and you didn't tear the potatoes up. You'll notice here that I started on this end with this spatula and went under the thick part of the meat and just got it started and went through to the end and picked it up and put it on a plate. And there's the skin stuck to the foil, because we didn't put spray on the metal foil. And if there are any little pieces of scale left, it should be on the other side of that skin. My bride has enough for lunch tomorrow, and I have enough for lunch tomorrow. And this is my bride's dinner. Wild salmon, baked, green beans out the garden, and parsley potatoes with butter.